and welcome to the Fundraising Leadership Podcast, where we talk about topics related to fundraising, leadership, coaching, and management. And I'm Janice Cunning, and I'm here today with my special guest, Joenita Paulrajan. So welcome, Joenita.
Thank you, Janice. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited. So let me tell people a little bit about you. You lead the Equity and Inclusion Program at the UBC Extended Learning, which probably all of our Canadian listeners know that UBC, but maybe our American listeners don't, is the University of British Columbia in beautiful Vancouver.
That's right.
Yeah. And so why don't you tell us a little bit about that program and your involvement in it?
Yeah. So the Equity, Diversity, Inclusion Program is an online program, and it caters to adult learners, professionals, and from across different sectors, different parts of the world, mostly based in North America, though. And they come together into the different courses that we have in the program, and engage in the learning with each other. It's very peer learning based. So when they come in, there's the content, and there are all these different examples, and then there is the sharing with each other of their own experiences. And so the intent is, there's the learning that happens over the weekend maybe, and Monday morning they go to work and they should be able to apply it.
Right.
So we need it to be very application centered. And so we try to make that happen. And people come with a lot of great experiences. So it's a really rich environment to learn with each other. And the courses are, some people have, are maybe in a place where they have more time. And so there are courses that are about 6 weeks long per course. And then there are other courses that are about 15 hours spread over 3 weeks. And different price ranges. So it's kind of, there's something for everyone. And we try to make sure that there is a critical component to every course, because we don't want to just learn about diversity and inclusion without learning about equity too. And so we need to try to gain the whole picture versus just one piece of it. So
yeah, I love that. Yeah. And you wrote a blog post for us, which we linked to in the show notes, which is 10 steps to creating an equitable organization. And one of the things that really struck me was how you were saying, like, diversity. I think we talk a lot about diversity and inclusion, and it's like that's kind of a starting point, and equity is different. But before we even go there, let's define those things, because it did strike me as I was thinking about myself, like, do I really know? Like, I'm so used to hearing DEI, sort of lumped together. So what what to you is diversity? What is inclusion? And what is equity?
And so it's very interesting that you mentioned that, because people sometimes think when they have diversity that's it, it's done. We have different people around the table. Look at us, we're good, everything should work. But it's not that simple. So diversity is when you have differences, right? A culturally diverse group. So say in an organization, you have a lot of diversity across the organization in the different levels. So maybe, right? And then inclusion is when people feel like they can be engaged. They feel like they're experiencing a sense of belonging in the organization. So I'm not just showing up as a token or one more different face at the table, but I also matter. So my participation, my engagement matters. And so that's inclusion. So what are some things we need to do? What strategies do we need to have in place for people to feel included? To feel like they matter, so they experience that sense of belonging. But then equity is different, because I can experience a sense of belonging, but does the organization belong to me? Right? Like, who makes the rules? Who runs the show? Who benefits from everything that happens? So if it's not me, then there isn't equity. So if it isn't someone who is culturally different, who is who feels that sense of inclusion, yes, but not equity yet, then we have work to do in that area.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. That's a really, yeah, that makes it really, I think, easy to understand. And like I said, it was sort of, it really struck me. I think you sort of used this. I like the visual you used of the pathway, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
there are different pathways to get to these different things. And, one of the things that you start with is acknowledging historical colonial realities, which
Yeah.
obviously I think in, we're both here in Canada. We've been very conscious over the last number of years in terms of the Indigenous population with truth and reconciliation around this topic. I think
Mm-hmm.
people are starting to have a heightened understanding. But give us a little bit more about like why is that the first step for organization?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's really important for us to take into account the colonial realities in the context that we are living and working and benefiting from living and working on, right?
Mm,
So it's not just we don't just exist in a vacuum. There are power differentials at play here. So we do need to take a look at anti-Indigenous racism, and we do need to take a look at the land and what that signifies, right? And if we think of our identities as individuals and organizations in relationship to the land and to the Indigenous people of the land, then we'll have a slightly different conversation than what we are doing when we talk about diversity and inclusion, right?
mm-hmm.
So it's really important that we take into account. And yes, we have the Truth and Reconciliation, the TRC, and the UNDRIP. So we have all of that, but there is still a lot of work to be done. So even here in Canada, I think that's one of the things. Sometimes we think, but we are very nice and we're very polite and we have all of these, qualities, but that's not enough. And
Yeah.
sometimes that trips us up as we go on to do this work, but because we think that couldn't be us, it's happening over there,
Yes.
right? But we need to think about what's happening here, and it's what we're doing now is not enough, and we need to be more intentional, and we need to be more aware of those colonial realities, and we need to really sit down and learn and act to change. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
how we
Yeah.
work with each other. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was really struck too, like one of the points you made about setting expectations, because I think there is, here in 2020 now there's this awakening for many more people, myself included, which is good. But there is this way in which sometimes we think like, well, what's going to happen in 6 months, 1 year, 3 year, 5 year? And it's like, okay, like let's really kind of take a step back and remember the history, like you're saying, of like how long things have been this way. And so
Mhm.
tell us a little bit more about that piece, because I think it's like human nature, right? Like, okay, now we see there's a problem, let's fix it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hmm. And it's a good thing that there's the enthusiasm and the eagerness to fix it, and at the same time we have to recognize that Indigenous people, Black people, people of color have been doing this work for many generations. It's not new for them,
Mm-hmm.
and they've been living this reality for many generations. And so while we are enthusiastic and eager, we also have to kind of think about the people who have already been here
Mm-hmm.
and what has already been done, and so work in collaboration and uh, think through what that can mean for the people who have already been doing this work, right? To center their voices, center
Mm-hmm.
their perspectives, their experiences, and then go from there. So setting those expectations, because a lot of times we think, okay, tell me the 5 things I need to do, and I
Mm-hmm.
know I've said 10 10 steps. There are more steps than 10.
Yes.
But, but we think if I do these 5 things, this is good, it's done.
Yeah,
But
check.
it's not
Yeah.
check. Yeah, right. So no, it doesn't quite work like that. So we kind of have to really take a step back. These are systemic issues we're talking about, institutional barriers that we're talking about. And so it's going to take some time, and it's going to take a lot of different kinds of work by different kinds of people. And so there's going to be different kinds of allyship that will come into play. So then for me to say, I'm going to step into this space as an ally, I need to think about which parts of it is performative and which parts of it will actually be transformational, right? So I need to be willing to, this is not like a drive-through where, I place an order, I get what I want, but this is the long haul. And yet at the same time, there are small things that I can do now that will help me prepare to be in allyship. So, which is why, I'm going back to the courses that I was talking about.
Yeah.
So some of the courses, even the smaller courses, we have a course called Anti-Racism Strategies for the Workplace. And so let's get together. Let's talk about what we are observing in the workplace. Let's talk about our own identity. Let's talk about, the norm in our organizations and how we can shift that. And let's talk about some of the, legislation that's in place, whichever context we are in. So we do that, we learn those things, and then we take it back to our organizations. And so, with that enthusiasm, there's a speed, and there's a impetus and a momentum. And so let's do that. And yet remember that this work has been going on for many generations. So to hold both in balance.
Yeah. Because you talk about, in your post, identifying the pioneers. And what I love, what you said earlier is the way that you're offering education is, there is context, there's information, but more importantly, it's people coming together and being able to share their own stories.
Yes.
And collaborate and learn from each other, which is really a beautiful way of doing it. And, one of the positive things of technology, right? That now we can really bring people from, I think you said, you really have people from widely across North America who come and join you.
Yes, yeah. And so the courses have been online even before this transition happened in a lot of different places to online learning. So we've been online in the online space for many years, even before. And so it's one of the things for us was to think about, all of us, I think, at some level prefer face-to-face learning. We like to meet in person. That's how we're made that way, to be in person with each other. And so that's our preference. And yet it's just impossible for me to say, oh, there's a course in Japan that I would love to go into. I can't do that. It's not gonna, right? So for us, the online piece, when we started doing the online piece and we started developing more courses, it was trying to understand and see how we can create a similar experience. So it still feels warm and inclusive. It still feels like I can be engaged. I get to know people. I can be in community, because the learning has to happen in community. So we try to do that, and so we've had many chances to make mistakes and learn, and we still make mistakes and we still learn. So that's the thing. Now the courses are there, and it's I wouldn't even talk about it as an online course. I feel as if it's an online community of learners who respect each other, who know each other, who are there to learn with each other. And we have nice guidelines in place to help people, because some of these can be triggering topics, and we can hold the space for that, and we can have learning happen, even if there are triggers. Yeah.
And I think, one of the things and you actually made the point about you have to fund like funding, right? Like
Yes.
this work actually needs money put to it and walk the talk. Like, there's kind of a few points you make. But I think what you're saying is really applicable to our listeners, which is, often in the nonprofit sector that can be a little bit more of a challenge. So, of course, this isn't accessible to anyone, but like you were saying, there's a wide range of price points. It is online, so that at least starts to make it somewhat more accessible for our listeners to consider if this is something that they want to do. Which I would highly recommend they click on those links in the show notes and learn more about what you're offering. So yeah, and like we said, there's you make 10 points. We're not going to unpack every single point, and what I like about your points is they very much are broad. Like like you're not saying like it's not a checkbox. It's really like these are 10 tangible, really meaty things that you need to think about. So, and like you, as you know, on the podcast here, we like to give people somewhere to start, right? So something to try. So what is something that you think, today or tomorrow that our listeners could actually do to just take one more step into this role?
I would say start with the questions. Take a look across the different levels in your organization or in your communities and start with the questions. Who belongs in that organization, in that community? Who belongs? Who experiences a sense of belonging in that organization? To whom does the organization belong? Who benefits? So if we have clarity, if we ask those questions, and when we get the answers, it will create pathways for us to explore what we need to do next.
Yeah. I love that. And it feels so empowering because, like you said, it's like this has to and can happen at all different levels within an organization. And so, for our listeners, like whatever level you're at the organization, like you have a circle of influence, right? And you can just start by asking that. And I think that's one place where nonprofit organizations like there's a really greater awareness this year, which is so important that it's like, why do they exist if not to, make the world better, right? To serve their community. And so I think it's an even more important set of questions for these type of organizations. You're trying to change society, overcome some kind of challenges and serve people, then you need to be starting that from a place of, seeing who belongs and who the organization actually belongs to. So I love that. Yeah. Well, I feel like we could talk about this all day, but that's just a little hint. And like I said, we'll link to the blog. You can read through the 10 points, and I really encourage everyone to also click on those links and check out the program. If it's something that your organization has been thinking about stepping into this year, this is a really accessible way to do that. So thank you, Joenita.
Thank you, Janice.
Me today. And a special thanks to Nanika Allen, who brought us together.
Thanks, Nika.
And a former podcast guest, so you can also check out her podcast recording. So that's it for today. I'm going to invite everyone to please subscribe if you haven't already. You can find the Fundraising Leadership Podcast on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music Podcasts, and Spotify. And if you're enjoying the show, we'd love for you to rate and review so it can help other people find us. And so, go and put those questions into practice.